Hello, friends. Welcome back. Another day, another realization in this Ascension Chronicles series where I share my personal insights and examples that happen in my life to assist all others who are attracted to these videos on their paths. And so, what happened today was I was doing an activity. There was lots of people around, and I noticed there was one person there that in the past I had created fearful stories about. So, in a nutshell, I had seen them as a threat. And this was a program in itself that I have been working through. And I must say, I feel like I'm through it, or at least on the very tail end. Yet, I hadn't seen this person in quite some time, and just them being there, I noticed it brought up all of these stories and this pattern of being fearful of another human, thinking they're a threat, wanting to hide, wanting to get small, being tense, being constricted, being hyper focused on what they were doing, their every movement, in an attempt to keep myself safe. And I know this programming was from the war, and there it served a purpose, but now it's time to release it. So, and because this person actually isn't a real threat, it's just when we have these programs, even if they're ancestral or wherever they come from, we will pick out people, and whatever seems threatening to us, we will label that as a threat. And so I noticed myself doing this, and the truth is, I felt it, and then it was like I attracted this person. They came right beside me and were doing their thing, like right beside me. And then they left. And when they left, I just stood there, and I took a deep breath, and I thought, what am I doing? That's not me. You know, that's the old me. That's the past me. That's the programmed me. And as I just stood there, just breathing and thinking about it, I realized I had been over dramatizing this situation. And it reminded me that as humans, we over dramatize so much in our lives, and then like a bolt of lightning, like this clarity came in, and I realized that a reason we are so dramatic, even if it's just in our own mind, is that when we were children, we realized that we would get more attention from others the more dramatic we were. And for a child, attention equals love. And energetically looking at it, when we have someone's attention, they're giving us their energy, and energy is love. So it all makes sense. So, but here's the thing: when we are a child and we want attention from our parents, other caregivers, friends, whatever, we learned that when we over dramatize things, we would get the attention for longer, which meant feeling that love for longer. And so this, I feel, is so like unconscious. We can call it a subconscious program that I noticed had been running. And even though I don't talk about these threats with literally anyone else in my life other than, you and in the books, because I'm sharing this to assist others. And so I'm not looking for attention, but I see that the little child me created this dramatizing things to get attention. And then when I looked at the world, I can see that we're all, if not all of us, are dramatizing things because when we were kids, that was how we got guaranteed a longer bit of attention. And this is also because, of course, no one taught us that love can come from within us, and that we always have the attention of our guides, our light team, literally any being in the higher realms that we call on. We could say we always have the attention of Source, which is really everyone and everything. And an interesting one was, and I asked my higher self earlier, I was like, do we have the attention of all the other higher selves, say like in a room or during an activity? And the answer was yes. And so we already have all this attention, but it's not because we're lacking in love, because we are unconditional love. And we have our heart center is a portal to infinite unconditional love. And so by coming into our hearts, we can bring in love in any frequency into our body. Anything. And so we were never taught that though. And so we relied on others to get this love, typically through attention. And so the more we were dramatic, the more we got this attention. And then we grew up into adults and we stopped acting dramatic, yet in our minds we still over dramatize just mundane scenarios because of this subconscious programming. And this blew my mind. This was such a great realization. And what actually helped me get there was that quick tool we learned in yesterday's video about what am I being influenced by in this moment. And I realized I was being influenced by that childhood pattern of being dramatic to get energy, to get attention, which we perceived as love because it is energy, which is love. And so I thought, wow, it was wild that my mind could create those stories and my body feel emotions, and then physically, of course, naturally we physically will do what our mind and how we feel that influences our actions. And so we can be, of course, influenced by any emotion, any feeling. Yet I realized that I don't want to keep doing that, because as soon as that person left, I stood there and I was like, I was just present and I was like, I'm completely fine. They didn't say anything to me. They didn't do anything to me. And I was just using this old program, like I would say subconsciously, but because I was aware of it, now we bring consciousness to it. And now we can make a new decision. We can know that the love that we are often seeking in others, we have an infinite source of it within us. And it's from our heart center. And we can access this at any time and any place. We can bring in more love for ourselves. We can remember that we are seen by Source, which is everything. And so we don't have to do this again. And it reminded me of when I was doing my car registration, and I was talking to the woman who was helping me, and she said, you have to be dramatic to get people to do anything. And that really stuck with me. And that was years ago, but it really stuck with me, is that as humanity, there's this whole like addiction to drama, and people see drama as the way that they can get what they want. And of course, as we've learned in this series, want itself is an illusion, because we are everything. And so all of that, this stuff starts breaking down. And that's a beautiful thing, because that frees us. And when I was thinking about this further, I was thinking, so what was really the feeling that I was feeling in those moments where I started to entertain those old stories? And it was like feeling unsafe. And then, like another lightning bolt of clarity, I had this realization I've never had before, which is huge for me. And I know it's going to help many people. And I'm guessing every single person who watches this video. And what that is that when we feel unsafe, we are basically choosing to be a victim. Because we are the creator of our reality. And when we see ourselves as the creator of our reality, we see that we are always safe. We are an infinite, eternal being, a light being. And we know that we are always safe. So when we feel unsafe, we're actually choosing to be a victim. And of course, when we choose that, of course, this is happening unconsciously, then that lowers our vibration and such and such. Of course, on this path, like I described yesterday, we're always rising in vibration, but there is a threshold that we go between as we rise. So yeah, I was like, wow, whenever we feel unsafe, we're choosing to be a victim. Because when we really understand that we are creating our reality for our ultimate benefit in all scenarios, we know that we're just not, we can't be a victim. And the victim paradigm is an illusion, because it relies on guilt. And it's just not us, because our true self, our higher self, has never once felt like a victim. Yet me as a human, I can put my hand up and say that I have felt victimized so many times in my life. I felt so victimized by so many different things that happened. But now, with my higher self perspective and being able to look back on the past and see the purpose in everything, I can see it was all assisting me to get me to this place. Everything that happened was helping push me along my path. Everything that happened was giving me all the information that I use right now, here, today. And it was another example of everything that happens is nudging us back to our true self. That's what this thing today, I could see it as. It was this other human whose higher self was helping me by and of course the vibrational attraction was helping me to have this realization, because this person is not a threat. And yet in the past I had created those stories, and that's what had come up. And when we think of someone as a threat, we have resistance, and resistance just attracts whatever we are resistant towards. And that's why love is so powerful, because when we love instead of fear, that frees us from everything. It's the fear that's the resistance that keeps all these connections tied up and attracting things that we don't even want. Yet when we can love all these things, now there's no resistance. And so that's what I talk about when people just vanish, seem to vanish from my reality. And so, yeah, it's fascinating. And I made quite a few notes here, so I just want to make sure that I got everything in here. And I did. So very good. But yeah, it was just such a heartfelt realization about this childhood conditioning to be dramatic, to get attention. And even though we're adults now and we typically don't be dramatic to get others' attention, people, although often do, through complaining or being, oh, poor me, self-pity, all this stuff. And then there's, of course, overt ways of getting attention, being loud and this and that. Yet I could see so clearly it all came from childhood and whatever worked on our parents or primary caregivers or whoever we were hanging out with the most. And that came into adulthood without us even knowing. And then once we start becoming aware of our thoughts and our feelings and connecting with ourselves, this is when we realize this stuff and we can let it go. And then when we let it go and when we release it, we provide a blueprint for other people to do the same. And it really came up to share this about that we all have a tap to infinite love through our heart centers. And I feel if humans just knew this, the world would be a completely different place. Because it's like everything people do, like being dramatic and even acting out of fear, everyone is just attempting to get love, trying to get attention, just trying to get love. And yet everyone has a connection to an infinite supply of love through their heart center. So this is the shift, of course, from being a more mind-orientated society to a heart-centered one. And of course, we still use the mind, yet when we come into our hearts, we get the mind on the same page as the heart. And that's also really what the work that I've been doing what my books are about is allowing the mind to heal, to bring in our higher self perspectives, so that we can use the mind as it was intended, because the mind is amazing. Our brains are amazing. There's nothing wrong with them. We have just programmed them in different ways. And so when we release that programming, wow, we can do some amazing things. And so yeah, that is what I am here to share today. And I trust that this has been of assistance if you were shown this video or if it popped up. And yeah, I was just checking in with Spirit if there was anything else to mention. But that's it. That's all for today. And yeah, just I guess the take-home message is to notice when we are being perhaps overly dramatic. And this doesn't have to be out loud or speaking or through our actions, just in our minds. Because that's where this was all happening for me. It was just my mind was being overly dramatic. And then I could see so clearly that link to childhood. It's like the baby crying out to get the attention. But even as we grow, we realize that, and like I said, different things work on different parents, different people. We pick up these different things when we're young to get attention. And now we can bring awareness to it and let it go. And by doing this work for ourselves, we are literally helping everyone else. And so, yes, I will leave it there. I will send you much love and blessings on your path, and I will see you in the next one.